Okay, good morning. I'm going to be presenting this morning. This is a talk about the games development course, and my name's Fraser. I've been delivering this course for a number of years now, and so I'm going to explain from my perspective what the Trowbridge offering of games development entails. We also offer this provision on our Salisbury and on our Chippenham campuses as well, and also with the extra thing of a fairly new HND in games development on offering on our Salisbury campus. I'll talk a little bit more about that progression option there, as well as our visual effects and media offerings at HND level in Chippenham, as well as potential progression options within the college. What I want to lead off with this morning is a demonstration of some of our excellent student work, and this is a show reel produced by a student who's graduated from us last year. So I'm going to put that on now, and then I'll talk to you once that's finished playing. Okay, so that was a student's work who had come actually all the way through the different levels that we offer at college. So he started with us from a level 1 perspective, having arrived without the necessary qualifications to get onto games development, which was his ultimate goal. But he worked really hard and developed lots of skills through our different pathways. At level 1, we give them the students a very brief introduction to lots and lots of different skills, and at level 2 we start to hone that down a little bit more, and then they can work out what their pathway is. And Tobias, that particular student, was always set on doing games development and worked his way onto achieving his progression onto our course, and then he did exceptionally well whilst he was on level 3, and applied to university, which is our main progression route as well. And he applied to study at Staffordshire, which is a really renowned place for visual effects, which was his specialism. So one of the things I think people tend to be a little bit concerned about maybe is with games development is that what does it lead on to? And with it being such a multidisciplinary subject, it does mean that you can branch out and take on different things, in this case visual effects, because of the crossover with the TV and film industry. But we've had students who've gone into graphics, but equally many of our students do progress into games development, either degrees and then eventually employment. And as I say, me having been working at Trowbridge for over a decade now, I've had feedback from learners who've gone all the way through with us and are out the other side in employment. So it's really good to sort of hear that we're setting people up in the correct way to progress. And I'll talk a bit more about progression later on, but that's kind of one of the main options for the course afterwards is higher education. As I say, we have HNDs as well that I'll talk to you about in a bit. But as you can see, the main sort of progress route is mapped out on this slide. And the level 3 offering is very much the equivalent of A levels. It's a specialism in games, but it's offered over a 2-year pathway. So it's very similar to that A level process, where it equates to 3 A levels in terms of UCAS points and in terms of the way that it's presented externally when people view the grade that you achieve at the end of it. So it leads on to lots of different options, but ultimately it's about developing skills and developing an awareness of what your personal strengths are whilst you're taking the course. It's a 2-year vocational qualification, as I say, and some of the skills that you will obtain whilst you're working on it are listed here. So, for example, concept art, and as part of that process, we have lots of different bits of equipment and techniques that we teach from that perspective. I think the course is very much a mirror of what would be the equivalent of a Bachelor of Arts. So with us sitting under the umbrella of creative arts and media as a subject area, the games development course itself is a lot about the visuals and the creative thinking process behind that. So in the same way as a Bachelor of Arts degree mirrors that kind of creative thought process, that's a lot about what we do. In terms of the more Bachelor of Science aspect of games, the coding and things, we do cover interactive design, but we do it from a much more of a utilizing the tools from the point of view that they showcase how to get into it and reduce the barriers that some people will have in terms of that. So we use a system called blueprinting in Unreal Engine, which is a really nice way of introducing interactive design that's mentioned there. We also branch out, so we cover aspects like motion graphics, and we all of our lecturers have different specialisms, and we play to those strengths. So our lecturer with that particular background teaches Adobe After Effects, and we cover that in cross-discipline mixing of projects utilizing 3D Studio Max and covering a multitude of different angles, so that we can develop portfolios that really showcase a really broad width of skills, and for which we receive really good feedback. So when the learners go out to interviews, we often hear back that their portfolios have impressed the interview panel, and they kind of hear positive feedback because of the different kind of crossover that we offer as part of the course learning. Animation, another example. So as well as 3D animation, a lot of our work tends to be using 3D modeling software. So we gravitate towards rigging and producing animated content, but we also look at 2D animation. We do cover some sprite development and pixel art and things like that, again, which is a resurgent skill. And so we're quite reactive to what's going on in the industry, and we try to get projects and mirror projects that are happening out in the industrial placements that are going on. Sound production as well. Again, a lot of the the emphasis on games development means that there's a lot going on underneath and in the background of games. So it's a multidisciplinary subject, as I say, and that means that we need to cover a lot of different things, and that means that the learners get the opportunity to work out what their skills are and what their personal strengths are. Analytical skills. So this subject covers the breadth of media processes, and so we talk about the language of media, and we get learners to investigate and understand audiences and key theory like that, so that they make games that are viable and that are targeting the audience needs and show an awareness of that, including the research skills. One example of that is in terms of project that we've recently done. It involved interviewing people to get a sense of what the audience felt was important to that particular project, and using that to drive that forward. Industry knowledge as well. So again, as I said before, all of our lecturers have relevant industry knowledge that's more specific to games and to the media sector. So potentially something that we offer over schools where we have lecturers that have that unique specialism and can talk about industry experience and things like that really filter into the work and help to boost it and take it to that next level, really. Portfolio development, as I say, really important part of the process, and that showreel that I just showcased is one example of that. So we get students to produce interactive showreels that demonstrate the kind of moving element of the projects that we undertake, but also the idea that, again, as part of the process, that we're trying to showcase everything to the best of students' abilities. And much like an art student would have a physical portfolio and take that off to interview, we get students to develop digital portfolios and an online presence. So one of the key things about the course is that we consider how students promote their work, and that's part of it, as well as the professional practice bit at the end. And we try to, where possible, we try to establish links with industry to make our projects as industry relevant as possible. Examples of that include the fact that we've worked with the Oliver twins, who previously a long time studied at the college, and they were instrumental in providing briefs for us that replicate their companies and what their companies have achieved. And so learners have had the opportunity to work on those briefs to simulate what it would be like to work in a studio, a AAA studio. Equally, we've got a recent link with someone at Bohemia Interactive making assets to work as part of their work in military simulation software using the Armour engine and things like that. So there's lots of exciting opportunities on the course to really engage and to develop work that simulates, as I say, what it would be like to work in industry. The kinds of disciplines that you can develop as part of the course are sort of listed here, but again, these are not all of them. The games development covers a really vast array of disciplines, and so the course ensures that you get to know what is your personal strength, whether that's animation, visual effects, whether it's just a real interest in rendering and it takes you into a different discipline, like maybe architecture or something like that, or graphics. And so a lot of the projects are designed to encourage you to explore what is your probably previously uncharted or unexplored aspects of your knowledge, and work out what it is that you actually are best at doing, and then take that forward, hopefully, and promote that in the next phase of your education. The course itself is, as I say, it's over 2 years, and it's made up of 13 different units. So it's very similar in the structure to A-level, in that at the end of year one, you get an interim qualification and you complete a project that is the culmination of all the previous projects. So you explore many different skills, as you can sort of see listed there in year one. Things like exploring how to research, exploring audio techniques, visual techniques, interactive, etc. Having achieved all of the previous units, the final project is about the learners beginning to specify. In year one, it's a slightly tighter brief where they're given more restrictive elements, but they can essentially design a brief that enables them to achieve something that's more unique to them. So some students who are interactive developers might pick a game mechanic to develop as part of their outcome, whereas others who are more visual might decide to make a really nice interactive world and model the assets for that. So again, it depends what your specialism is. Year two is slightly more refined version of the same process, but each time the final project determines the grade. So whether that's a pass, merit, or distinction, ultimately that is the grade that is the outcome based on the final project. The previous projects are all assessed, and you're given feedback and sort of indicated as to how you're doing. But with the UAL model that we work to, it's a lot about taking away the pressure of getting fixated on grades, and it's much more about the process of getting the feedback, so that we say, right, this is something you're doing well, this is something to enhance or work on. And so we're trying to make sure that students focus on ignoring the grade a little bit, especially in the build up to the final projects, and really focus on the skills and working out how to improve and enhance as they go along. The cycle for this process is very much a standard creative cycle, in that we start off with this idea of establishing context through research, and then that leads to the ideas phase and coming up with what will be the initial thought process for the game, and then that leads into problem solving and development of the actual solution, and then that whole filtering process of revision, reflection on the work, and then going back to it and looking at it and kind of refining it. And that cycle is something that repeats throughout the course, so that learners can build on their experiences and gradually improve and enhance based on their self-reflective skills. On that note, the way that learners document their work on the course is on a website. So we're not website developers, but we use web templates, much in the same way as that art students would use a physical sketchbook. We get learners to collate and create their work on websites, and that makes up the body of the way that the submissions build. So it's quite nice from a parent or guardian's point of view that you can kind of oversee the learning that's taking place in the development. We encourage the students to share their websites with people who can then take an interest in that and see that developing. So part of the process is that assessment thing of building up that website, of that body of evidence that is really rewarding to look at as you're developing throughout the course. The kind of breakdown of the provision is there. So it's that idea that it's a full-time course at 12.5 hours per week. That tends to work out 3 or 4 days a week, with the expectation that time is put in outside of college. So really kind of that focus of in college developing practical skills, especially this year we're having to develop some more online learning techniques, which will hopefully go back to more in class in the future. But that is something that we are able to do on the course with the digital nature of it. But so the idea that students will progress and develop their skills whilst they're with us, and in that time we cover a lot of new practical skills, teaching software and hardware, and I'll come on to some of the specifics of what the college offers in terms of the games hardware. But we've got some really, really good facilities, and it's something that the college has invested in heavily. And again, coming back to the idea of maths and English, is part of the provisions, especially if you haven't achieved the grade 4 prior to starting the course. It is something that is required to take on a level 3, and so you can take a level 3 if for example you haven't got one or the other of maths and English at a 4, but that means you'll be taking that with us at a separate timetabled slot in the week. Just on entry to the course, the expectation in terms of achieving a place on the course is 4 4s, or what were 4 Cs previously, ideally including maths and English, but that can be across different disciplines. And I tend to look for students who've taken creative subjects in their makeup when they apply to the course. So it could be that you've taken ICT or potentially design, technology, and art as well, are kind of all GCSEs that are quite useful in terms of preparing students for the games experience. That said, some students just know that they've always wanted to make games, and the opportunities are few and far between. That's something I kind of recognise that isn't necessarily always available at school. Some are great and provide after school clubs and things like that to give students a taste of that. But I often have students who've applied to the course who've literally just done things off their own bat. They've got Unity, they've had a go on Game Maker, they've made something using a game like Little Big Planet that's got a creation engine in it, or modded games. So any of those kinds of things are relevant, and I'd encourage anyone who's got a background in those kind of areas to apply and think about applying based on that. In terms of the outcome, and I think this is what, especially from a parent and guardian point of view, so you think, well, what is games going to actually get? Are they going to be able to get a job? And I think that's one of the kind of main misconceptions with the course. It does provide a lot of opportunities, as I've talked about before. It's a lot of the idea that you can develop skills, and you can get skills that will take you beyond games. So there are things like visual effects, graphics, architecture, lots of broader disciplines that games covers. But ultimately, games is a really viable employment sector. It's something that the UK does particularly well as an industry leader. And so there are a lot of opportunities out there. And as part of that, there's a growing portfolio of higher education offerings, including our own, which I'll pitch a little bit, which we have a higher national, as I say, in games, and a visual effects course, which are the two kind of most relevant ones that we have at Chippenham and Salisbury. But equally, a lot of our students tend to progress to really, really good universities all across the country as the main way forward. That is the best way to kind of get towards the ultimate goal of getting employed in the sector. So if from my experience on the Trowbridge site, we've had students that have gone international in terms of progression. So we've had students that have gone to Groningen in Holland, which is really exciting. We also have students that have progressed to Abertay in Dundee, which is kind of like the Oxford or Cambridge, if you like, of progression in games. We've got students that go there and have done really well. If you're willing to make the jump to Dundee, that is. I've just got a question, but I'll come back. I'll answer all questions at the end of this when I've done my talking bit, just so I can get through that. But the idea that as well in terms of progression, that there's broader courses. So like I say, some people have gone stayed locally. There's lots of provision locally. We talk about Southampton Solent is a really good offering, or Plymouth. Some people might fancy the rural locations to go down to Falmouth and study there. And so that's that's part of the process in terms of like some of the different outcomes for that. I'm just going to answer that question on the fly now because I thought I wouldn't be able to handle it, but I think I'm okay with it. So is it mandatory to have a GCSE in IT to do the course? Absolutely not. No. If anything, like I say, some people have never taken IT before, but just really know that, gaming is their life and they're that committed to it. They've put some time in their own time. Some people are just from a creative background, so like art GCSE, design technology, resistant materials, graphics, any of those kinds of things might show that you've got some skills that are transferable. But as I say, some people have just modded in games or played games with creative engines like even Minecraft and things like that and spent hours making content and just have a real affinity for it. So I welcome anyone to apply. And we will, that's part of the interview process. We will discuss that and you can get feedback and see how, whether or not the course is going to be right for you. Trips and external events. We have a trip at the start of the course. Unfortunately, not this year because of events, but normally we would go up to EGX in London, which is a really nice starter course to do, and that gets everybody kind of bonding and everything on the coach, and it's really good. So you get to play loads of games that haven't been played before, but also there's the serious bit of the industry speakers there, and they're giving us lots of information and telling us how you eventually get into the industry, what the industry is actually like when you get there. There's HE provision there, so again they can review portfolios and things. So that's a really nice event. And similarly with RESD as well, which is another Games Expo event with a bit more of a focus on the indie sector, which is nice from the point of view that you get to speak to the developers. They tend to stand at their stalls, so you can actually speak to them and find out about how they actually made their games and things like that. So both really nice events. We've done lots of other experiences like that as well. So these are the two mainstays, but we've also gone off to the Harry Potter tour, and we've done other things like that. So there's plenty of opportunities around that. We also go to specific HE visits. So we tend to go to some higher education offering. Again, in post-COVID era, that will be possible. In terms of provision, as I said before, the college invests heavily in the games as an area. So we've got really good provision. We've got twin monitors. We've got the kind of really good game setup that is very similar to what you'd get if you took this at degree level. We've got high-spec machines running Intel i7s, NVIDIA graphics cards, games graphics cards that can run all the engines that you see here. So Unreal Engine is our go-to engine, but we also have Unity and Game Maker for 2D. We teach using Autodesk products, which again is an industry standard software, and we teach using Adobe products as well. So everything that you learn is not just like some freebie. It's like, software that is actually the mainstay in industry. So you're learning it from a very early phase in your career, and means that you're going to have an advantage ultimately when you get to the employment stage. In terms of assessment, as I said before, pass, merit and distinction is the grade makeup. So it's just that idea, and they equate to a distinction at the end of the course equates to the equivalent of 3 A's at A level. Merits, again, in the B sort of area at A level B/C. Again, those two grades will take you straight on to a full degree, and the pass will probably open up opportunities to study at a foundation degree level or the higher national diplomas that we offer. So lots and lots of different options in terms of progression that you can develop there. I've already had that question about whether GCSE is mandatory, but if anyone's got any questions at all, then feel free to type away in the box at the bottom, and I'll try and address them if there are any specifics. If not, what you can do after this morning is just to drop an email into the college and let us know, and I'll do my best to address them as part of that application process. And as it says there, the application process is now live. So you can go over to our website at wiltshire.ac.uk and you can apply literally today. Your application will be processed, and then we all being well, and you get the GCSEs that you need, or you already have them maybe, then you'll be starting next September. Some people ask questions about investing in things before they start the course. We never say that it's essential that you have a gaming PC. It obviously helps if you've got a computer that can run the software. That's why I lose my voice. If you can run the software at home, but ultimately it's not not a requirement. We tend to work to cloud storage. Again, we're part of the Microsoft college system, so that means that all the students who enroll with us get a terabyte of cloud storage on the OneDrive accounts that they get, and that means that the work can be backed up there and saved there, and so you don't need to really invest in external hard drives and memory sticks and things that are a bit more prone to getting smashed about in bags and losing work. So it tends to be that we can do that from a fairly affordable point of view. It's really just, we have a course consumables fee which covers the trips, and we provide sketchbooks and art material and things like that. But ultimately, there's not that much in terms of expenditure. Okay, I think that there's, someone's writing, so I'll just wait a second. I've got a question coming in. But yeah, in terms of the progression opportunities, it is really good. Oh, cool. We just got a thank you. Thank you for listening. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up now. As I say, look forward to your applications, and that'll be well received. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me this morning, and goodbye.